Hello and welcome to Miss Bailey's Daily Dose. Today's topic lesson is all about muscles. So we're going to be learning to understand why we have muscles, what they do and how they work. So muscles are moved whenever we move. So before this lesson, in my topic lesson, we'll be looking at the skeleton and the bones and their functions. But without muscles, our skeleton would not be able to move. We wouldn't be able to do all the things that we do. We wouldn't be able to skip, hop, jump. How many muscles do you think we have in our body? So we have 206 bones, but how many muscles do you think we have? Have a little think. How many muscles do you think we have in our human body? We have over 650 different muscles. Some are larger than others and some are really small, and they all help us to move in lots of different ways. And they make up nearly half our body weight. So, our bodies are made up of different types of cells, and here's a cell here. Cells form together to make tissues, and our muscles and our skeletal muscle is made up of muscle tissue. We've also got organs, and organs are made up of our muscle tissue. They're also made up of smooth muscle cell, bone cell, and nerve cell. So there are different types of muscles. We're going to have a little look at involuntary and voluntary movements and which muscles do which thing. So, oh, here we go.
Skeletons can be remarkably flexible, but the bones of a skeleton don't move on their own. They need muscles to pull them.
Muscles are very important. You use muscles every time you move. You've got over 600 muscles in your body. So if you smile, you've used muscles in your face. If I wiggle my fingers, I've used muscles in my hand. So every time you make a movement, you will be using muscles. Muscles are attached to bone by a tendon. If I want to hold my arm out here and I want to bring my hand up towards my shoulder, I've got a muscle on the top and a muscle on the bottom, and the muscle on the top has to get shorter and contract. At the same time, the muscle on the bottom will get longer and relax, and then when I want to go and push my arm back down, the muscle on the bottom gets shorter and contracts, and the muscle on the top gets longer and relaxes. So they work as a pair to allow us to have a nice, smooth movement.
The muscle on the top pulls the arm up by contracting. Then, if you want to put your arm down, the muscle underneath has to pull instead, so the two muscles work together.
So, that was a really quick video to try and explain that muscles usually work in pairs. So if we have a look, just like they did it then, our bicep, which is the muscle at the top, and our tricep, when we bend our arm up, our bicep, which is the muscle at the top, is contracting. That means it gets smaller and fatter, it's contracting. And the tricep at the bottom gets longer and thinner, and that's relaxing. So one is contracting, the opposite one is relaxing. And then if I do the opposite movement, the one at the bottom, the tricep contracts, so it gets smaller and fatter. And the one at the top, the bicep, gets thinner and longer. So my bicep is now relaxing while my tricep is contracting. So they work in pairs to contract and relax. So once one is contracted, the other relaxes, and vice versa each time. Right, let's get back onto our PowerPoint. Oh, if it will let me. So, like I just said, muscles tighten, which is the same as contract, and they relax, which means release. We have two sets of muscles attached to most of our bones. So, for example, in our legs, in our arms, the ones that help us to do all the things that we usually do, like walk, run, you've got big sets of muscles that work in partnership, contracting and relaxing to help us to move. And you can see here, we've got the biceps contracted, smaller and fatter when we're contracting, and the triceps long and thin. And then when we do it the other way, our triceps get smaller and fatter, and our biceps get thinner and longer because they're relaxing. And we can see that the tendon is linking them together. So some of the movements we do are involuntary and some are voluntary. So have a think about what you think voluntary and involuntary means. Well, involuntary means we don't have any control over it, it just does it. Whereas voluntary means we choose to do it. So for example, I can choose to grab something, or I can choose to put my hands on my head, or I can choose to clap, or I can choose to jump or run. I'm choosing to do all of those things. Some of our muscles have involuntary movement, like our heart. Our heart beats on its own. We don't control that movement by saying, heart, you need to beat. It just does it. Blinking is an involuntary movement. We blink a lot of times. I'm not telling myself to blink. In fact, a lot of the time when I do blink, especially if I'm putting on some makeup or I've got sun in my eye, I'm not wanting to blink because then my makeup goes everywhere because I start streaming with water coming out of my eyes. So involuntary movements means we don't have control of it. Voluntary means we do have control over it. So you can see the heart here. It's an involuntary movement that muscle makes. It just does it on its own. Same with things like our digestive system. Those muscles move the food around without us telling it to. I'm not looking at my stomach going, please digest the salad that I just ate. It just does it on its own. Whereas if I was going to be running, walking, I'm telling my body to do it. I am moving my muscles and they are voluntary movements. We've got clapping your hands as a voluntary movement. We've got lifting your legs, lifting your arms. All of those voluntary movements. And then involuntary movements, you can see the heart here. It's beating, it's contracting and relaxing completely on its own. We don't tell it to do it. And the diaphragm as well helps us with our breathing and blinking. It's just an automatic thing that happens that our body just does on its own. We don't have to tell it to do it. Muscles are really important. It's really important to keep our muscles strong and healthy. And the way we can do that is by thinking about what we eat and exercising. If you don't exercise, then your muscles become weak. And that means the things that you like doing, like your running or your walking or your gymnastics or any of the sports you do, if your muscles are weak, you're not going to be as good at those sports. So for example, if you've got a footballer who goes to the gym all the time, who eats a really healthy diet, who trains 6-7 times a week, and then you've got a person who doesn't really go to the gym, eats fast food all the time, doesn't really do much exercise, if they were both to kick a football into a goal, the person who's been practicing and training and exercising those muscles is going to have stronger and more powerful muscles. So they will more than likely hit that ball with enough speed and enough power to go into the goal. Whereas the person who hasn't been doing that exercise, hasn't been eating the right things, hasn't been training their muscles, will have weaker muscles, which will mean they might only be able to kick a certain amount. It might go in the goal, but it might not go in as powerfully or as speedily or as strongly. So it just depends. So it's really important. We need to make sure that we're using our muscles. We know we use muscles every day. We use muscles in our faces when we're talking, when we're eating, when we're smiling, just like they said on the video. But we're talking about big muscles in our legs, in our arms, our abs, gluteus maximus, medius, minimus. All those muscles are big muscles that are going to help you with your sports and with your movement to get you stronger, fitter and better. So, see now whether you can answer my worksheet, which is all to do with contracting and relaxing. So what you need to remember is if the muscle is contracting, it gets bigger. So if I can show you on here, although Miss Bailey's muscles are not very good. So if I'm contracting, this muscle goes up a little bit, not much because I haven't got very good muscles in my arms. Whereas my tricep, you can see here, that's not going up, that's got thinner and longer. Then when I relax the top, the bottom one is contracting, so that feels a little bit bigger and harder and fatter now. And the bicep at the top gets longer and thinner, that's relaxing. And then you can have a little go at thinking about what muscles you're going to be moving for different activities. So for example, if you are mowing the garden lawn, what muscles are you going to be using to mow the garden lawn? Are you going to be using your biceps and triceps to actually push the mower? Are you going to be using your legs? Are you going to be using the muscles in your legs, like your quadriceps or your hamstrings? Are you going to be using those when you're pushing off?